Have you ever wondered why some dreams feel so heavy, so charged with a strange energy, as if they didn't come from your own mind? There are nights when we wake up with a feeling that something has touched us from beyond the veil of sleep. A presence, an image, a whisper that doesn't belong to us. Edgar Cayce, the famous sleeping prophet, believed that dreams were not just random firings of the brain, but doorways to dimensions of energy. According to him, the soul travels, receives impressions, and sometimes encounters forces that seek to disturb our inner balance. But Cayce also taught something simple and mysterious, that by tying a red cloth around the left wrist before sleeping, we can create a spiritual shield, a barrier that filters the energies that try to enter through the dream world. To modern ears, this may sound like superstition, just another curious ritual from an old mystic. But if we look deeper, beyond the surface, we may see that Cayce was speaking in the language of symbols. The left side of the body, he said, is the side of reception, the place where energy enters. The red color in many ancient traditions represents life, vitality, and protection. It is the flame that repels darkness, the heartbeat that refuses to be silenced. When you tie that ribbon, you are not performing magic in the childish sense of the word. You are making a declaration to your subconscious. Tonight, I will not be invaded. I will rest in the light of my own spirit. There is something profoundly human in this act, a desire to reclaim sacred space even in the invisible. Think about it. When we sleep, our bodies surrender, our minds dissolve, and our souls drift into subtler realms. It is the hour when our defenses are lowered, when emotions we ignore during the day return as dreams, symbols, or nightmares. In those moments, everything unresolved, grief, anger, fear, takes form and knocks on the door of our awareness. But sometimes, what visits us is not only ours. Sensitive souls often absorb the collective turbulence of the world, the echoes of suffering, the psychic noise that floats through the unseen. To people like Cayce, this is what gives rise to scent nightmares, dreams projected by the anxiety and negativity of others. The red ribbon then becomes more than an ornament. It is a conscious act of spiritual hygiene. The world's oldest traditions have always known this truth. Energy follows intention. In Tibetan Buddhism, monks tie colored strings around their wrists after a blessing, symbolizing divine protection. In Kabbalah, the red thread is wrapped around the left wrist to ward off the evil eye, the gaze of envy that drains vitality. In Hindu culture, the kalava, also red, is tied during prayers for the same reason, to align the mind with sacred intention. Cayce's teaching, though expressed through his own Christian mystic lens, echoes the same archetype, that color, gesture, and focus can channel higher energies. What matters is not the fabric itself, but the consciousness you weave into it. The ribbon becomes a bridge between the seen and the unseen, between faith and physiology. When you prepare for sleep, the moment of tying the ribbon can become a small ritual of return. Imagine it as lighting a candle within yourself, a reminder that even in darkness there is choice. The act slows you down. It brings awareness to a process we often take for granted. You are no longer collapsing into bed as a tired body, but entering rest as a living spirit. The ribbon on your wrist whispers, "I am protected. I am at peace." And in that whisper, your nervous system relaxes, your breath deepens, and your dreams begin to clear. In the symbolic mind, such gestures are not childish. They are sacred dialogues between the soul and the universe. Maybe this is what Cayce truly wanted us to remember, that we are not helpless against the forces of fear, even those that arrive disguised as dreams. Every symbol we create is a tool of awakening. The red ribbon does not fight the nightmare, it transforms the dreamer. It reminds us that consciousness can color energy, that what we call evil is often just the absence of a boundary, the unguarded doorway of our inner home. And by setting that boundary with love, by inviting light into the space where shadows play, we reclaim sovereignty over our nights. And so, before you sleep tonight, consider this not as a superstition, but as a question. What are you allowing into your rest? What emotions, what stories, what invisible threads are tied around your heart as you close your eyes? The red ribbon may simply be a piece of cloth, but it carries the memory of countless souls who, across time and tradition, have sought to dream in peace. Perhaps it is not about the color or the wrist at all. Perhaps it is about the intention, the courage to declare to the unseen, I am not afraid. I am awake even in my sleep. And with that declaration, the mind begins to soften, as if preparing to step into a deeper reflection, because protection in the end is not a wall, it is a vibration. Cayce often said that every thought, every emotion, radiates a frequency that attracts its own kind. Fear calls to fear, anger calls to anger, but love calls to harmony. If we understand this, the red ribbon becomes not a shield of separation, but a reminder of resonance. What we carry inside us defines the quality of what visits us at night. A peaceful mind does not attract chaos. A heart that forgives does not open to malice. The true fortress is built from within, and every symbol we wear is only a mirror of that invisible architecture. So when you tie that ribbon, you are not blocking the world. You are tuning yourself to a different wavelength of existence, one in which nightmares cannot breathe. Cayce's readings often linked physical acts to spiritual states. He would say that the body is the record of the soul, and that every gesture, even the smallest, can shift our internal chemistry. Science is now discovering what mystics have whispered for centuries. Intention alters physiology. When you believe you are safe, your body produces calming hormones. When you trust in protection, your immune system strengthens, your heart rate steadies, your breath becomes whole again. The red ribbon, therefore, is not superstition. It is a neurosymbolic key. It speaks to the subconscious in its native language: image, color, ritual, meaning. The subconscious does not think in logic, it thinks in symbols. And that is why such a simple act can ripple through the invisible corridors of the mind, calming what words cannot reach. Imagine for a moment that your subconscious is like a child. It does not understand complex theology or abstract reasoning, but it responds deeply to stories and signs. When you wrap your wrist with intention, it is as if you are whispering a bedtime story to that inner child. You are safe. You can rest. No harm will touch you. And the child, believing it, finally falls asleep without fear. The red ribbon then becomes the lullaby of the spirit, a silent assurance that the night is not an enemy, but a space of renewal. In that gentle act, you are not only preventing bad dreams, you are reprogramming the energy of sleep itself, turning the unconscious into a garden where healing can grow. Of course, there will always be those who dismiss such rituals as naive, as if wisdom must always wear the mask of logic. But even the most rational of us keeps small altars of meaning. The photograph on the bedside table, the ring we never take off, the song we play when words fail. These are all ribbons tied around the pulse of our daily lives, each carrying the same truth. We need symbols to anchor us in the intangible. Cayce simply gave form to what every culture has always known, that spirit needs language, and that language is image. The red ribbon is one more word in that universal tongue of the soul, spoken softly each night before we surrender to sleep. And what if we expand this idea beyond the wrist? What if we understood that every moment of our lives is a kind of sleep and awakening, that we are constantly drifting between worlds of awareness? Cayce taught that dreams are not separate from waking life. They are reflections of the same consciousness, operating at a subtler frequency. What happens in the dream world, he said, is often an echo of the vibrations we carry during the day. So when we cleanse our minds before bed, forgiving, releasing, centering, we are not only ensuring peaceful dreams, we are cultivating harmony in waking life. The ribbon on the wrist becomes a teacher, a reminder that spiritual protection is not something we put on at night and remove at dawn. It is a way of being, a state of luminous awareness that follows us everywhere. It is curious how something as simple as a piece of cloth can open the gates to such depth. But perhaps that is the essence of true wisdom. It hides itself in the ordinary. Cayce understood that spirituality does not require incense or sacred halls. It begins in the smallest gestures, in the tenderness with which we prepare for rest, in the mindfulness of how we breathe, in the quiet conversation between our hands and our hearts. When you tie that ribbon, you are performing a humble miracle, turning a common object into a vessel of presence. In that moment, you are bridging heaven and earth through a single thread of intention. And isn't that what all rituals are? ways of remembering that the sacred is never far, that it begins wherever attention and love meet. So tonight, when your room darkens and the world outside fades into silence, take the ribbon gently, as if holding a secret flame. Feel its texture, its color, its quiet pulse against your skin. It does not matter if it is silk or cotton. What matters is the awareness you pour into it. That awareness is prayer. That focus is the force that turns red into light. And as you tie it around your left wrist, the side of the heart, the side that receives, imagine that you are completing a circle of energy. You are no longer at the mercy of stray vibrations. You are aligned with the rhythm of your own soul. And in that alignment, nightmares lose their grip, as if dissolving into the dawn that already waits beyond your closed eyes. Because dawn always comes, even for the soul that wanders through long nights. In the silence between waking and sleeping, Cayce believed that the soul listens, not with ears but with vibration. He said that our dreams are mirrors that show not only what we think, but what we resonate. If fear is the dominant note of our inner song, then fear will echo through our nights. But when love becomes our frequency, even shadows reveal their purpose. The red ribbon, then, is not meant to reject darkness, but to teach us to walk through it with light in our hands. Every nightmare that fades is not a battle won, but a lesson understood. That no external energy has more power over us than the energy we feed within ourselves. There is a quiet wisdom in this. So many of us live as if the unseen were dangerous, as if the spiritual world were filled with traps waiting to steal our peace. Yet Cayce's teachings remind us that the invisible is not our enemy. It is our reflection. The energies that attack us are often our own neglected emotions seeking integration. When you place the red ribbon around your wrist, you are not banishing demons. You are inviting awareness. You are saying, I am ready to face myself. The color red, vibrant and alive, becomes a symbol of courage. It is the same hue that flows through your veins, reminding you that life itself is a form of sacred fire, and that this fire is your birthright. No nightmare can extinguish it. We might say then that Cayce's technique is not a method of avoidance, but a practice of remembrance. In tying the ribbon, you are recalling that the human soul is not a passive receiver of dreams. It is a co-creator. Just as an artist mixes colors to paint a new dawn, you can blend the vibrations of your thoughts to shape the texture of your sleep. The nightmares that once invaded your rest become teachers when you meet them with awareness. They show you the fragments of yourself still waiting to be healed. The red ribbon simply holds the space for that transformation, a thread that keeps you tethered to light while you travel through the landscapes of your inner world. If we look at the symbolism deeper, red is also the color of the root chakra, the energy center associated with safety, belonging, and grounding. When this energy is balanced, the soul feels anchored, unshaken by invisible storms. But when it is weakened, we feel vulnerable to every gust of unseen wind. By tying the red ribbon, consciously or not, you are activating that primal sense of safety. You are reminding your being that it is safe to rest, safe to feel, safe to dream. Perhaps this is why people who perform small bedtime rituals report deeper sleep, because the body recognizes the pattern of safety and repetition. Ritual becomes rhythm, and rhythm tells the nervous system, you are home. There's a paradox here that Cayce often returned to, that protection is not isolation, but connection. When we surround ourselves with light, we are not cutting ourselves off from the world, we are attuning to its higher frequencies. The red ribbon, therefore, is both a boundary and a bridge. It marks the edge of the self, yes, but it also connects you to the current of divine life that flows through all beings. You are not hiding from energy, you are harmonizing with it. This understanding transforms fear into reverence, nightmares into messengers, sleep into sanctuary. What once seemed like an external defense becomes an internal embrace. And maybe that's the true secret behind Cayce's simplicity, that spiritual power is never in the object, but in the awareness it awakens. The ribbon could be red or blue or invisible altogether. The effect would be the same if your intention carried truth. The human soul doesn't need grand rituals to touch the divine. It only needs presence. The act of tying something around the wrist, a gesture so small it could be missed, becomes, in that awareness, a declaration of sacred autonomy. I am the guardian of my dreams. This is not defiance. It is dignity. It is the quiet reclaiming of your own night sky, one thread of consciousness at a time. So tonight, as you prepare to rest again, notice how the air changes when you move with intention, the way the lamplight softens, the sound of your own breath as it slows. The ribbon waits on the bedside table, not as an amulet but as an invitation. Tie it gently and feel how your pulse begins to echo against it, a rhythm older than memory. Let that rhythm remind you that protection was never something to earn or summon. It was always there, woven into the fabric of your being. And as you close your eyes, you might feel that the night itself, once feared, has become your ally, whispering softly, "Sleep, dreamer. You are safe within your own light." And in that whisper lies the essence of all true protection, not resistance, but remembrance. The red ribbon, once just a simple piece of cloth, becomes the final teacher in this quiet lesson. What we seek to guard is never our body, but our peace. Edgar Cayce often said that the spirit of man is the lamp of the Lord, and a lamp does not fight the dark, it simply shines. Every night when you tie the ribbon, you are lighting that inner lamp again. You are declaring that peace is not something the world must give you. It is something you choose to keep alive even in the presence of shadow. That choice, repeated night after night, begins to rewire the deepest layers of the self until serenity becomes your natural state of being. Because protection is not about controlling what happens, but about mastering how we respond. Nightmares may still visit, stray energies may still drift near, but when your heart is steady, they cannot take root. They become passing clouds over the mountain of your awareness. Cayce's teaching invites us to rise to that altitude, where we are not trapped in the storm, but witnessing it from above. The red ribbon is the reminder on your wrist that says, stay awake, even in sleep. Stay centered, even in dream. And when you awaken from a restless night to find that your mind is calm, that your body feels rested, despite what it dreamt, you will know that protection is working from the inside out. There is a beauty in realizing that our most mystical tools are also the most humble. We search for answers in complex doctrines, forgetting that the universe speaks softly through the ordinary. A glass of water by the bed, a prayer before sleep, a ribbon tied with intention. These are the languages of the soul, gestures that slow the mind enough for grace to enter. Cayce never intended for the red ribbon to be worshipped. He meant it to be understood. It is not about cloth or color, but consciousness. It is about remembering that the divine does not live far above us. It lives within the smallest acts of care we offer ourselves. When we honor these acts, the unseen honors us in return. Think of how the body responds to this kind of attention. The moment you slow down, breathe, and perform a ritual of peace, your nervous system realigns with that message. Your heartbeat softens, your breath deepens, and your brain begins to release the chemistry of calm. What Cayce called spiritual energy is not separate from this biology. It is woven into it. The red ribbon resting against your pulse becomes a bridge between spirit and body, reminding them to move as one. In that unity, fear cannot survive. It dissolves like fog under morning light, revealing the quiet truth that has been waiting all along. You are safe because you are connected. You are protected because you are aware. And so, the purpose of the ritual is not to escape from darkness, but to understand that darkness has never been outside of light. It is only light unseen. Nightmares are not punishments. They are messages from the depths, urging us to heal the places we have abandoned within ourselves. The red ribbon teaches us to face them without dread. It says, stay open. You are stronger than the shadows. In that moment, fear loses its function, and what remains is compassion for yourself, for the unseen, for all that stumbles in the dark, seeking the same peace you now hold. When you reach that understanding, every dream, even the unsettling ones, becomes a doorway to wisdom. Perhaps that is what Cayce foresaw when he spoke of the power of symbols, that one day we would rediscover simplicity as the highest form of spirituality. In a world obsessed with complexity, the red ribbon brings us back to essence. It is the thread that ties the modern soul to ancient memory, a memory that whispers, "You were never alone in this." And as you feel the gentle weight of that truth, something shifts. The fear that once tightened your chest loosens, and the night ceases to be a battlefield. It becomes a sanctuary again. The ribbon no longer feels like protection from something. It feels like belonging to something, the vast, luminous rhythm of life itself. So tonight, when you prepare to sleep, let it be an act of devotion, not habit. Take the red ribbon and tie it with reverence, as if you were tying the world itself to your pulse. Feel gratitude for the body that breathes, for the dreams that teach, for the unseen guardians that move through silence. Whisper to yourself, as Cayce might have, "I rest in light, I travel in peace, I awaken renewed." And as the night folds around you, remember, the true power was never in the ribbon, but in the awareness it awakened. Carry that awareness into your days, into your choices, into the way you treat yourself and others. Let it become your invisible ribbon, a current of calm that encircles your life long after the cloth has faded. And now, before the world quiets completely, take one last breath and feel it, the serenity that comes when fear no longer rules your sleep. You are part of something vast, ancient and kind. The dream world is no longer a place to survive, but a field where your spirit can rest and learn. If these words have touched something in you, share your reflection below, not just as a comment, but as a continuation of this circle of light. And if you wish to keep walking this path of understanding together, subscribe, so that each week we may meet again in stillness, in clarity, in the art of remembering who we truly are.